Welcome back. It's exactly 13 after 9 o'clock, and a reminder that the second hour of News and Views is brought to you by African Muslims Agency. And in this hour too, you will be taking a listen to the Fired Up series with Hafiz Imran Chunara, personal excellence mentor and CEO of African Muslims Agencies. In today's episode, we are going to listen to Hafiz Imran Chunara talk to us about you will not value people more than you value yourself. That will be coming up in the Fired Up series in a short while. But right now we cross over to Osaka in Japan, and to be talking once again to Professor Saul Takahashi. He is an Osaka-based international human rights and humanitarian lawyer. A very good morning to you. Well, it's morning in my part of the world. I think it might be late afternoon your side of the world. Am I right?
Yes, it is. It's the afternoon over here, but that's fine.
Okay.
It's good to see you again.
Lovely to talk to you. A very good day, shall I say.
Yes,
Welcome
thank
once
you.
again to the show.
Yes, thank you. Thanks very much for the opportunity, and good morning to you. Yes.
Okay, so we are talking about the supposed peace deal announcement by Trump. We understand that a newly struck deal to end the US-Israeli war on Iran is being hailed as a strategic victory by President Donald Trump and his allies, though the specific terms of the agreement remain unknown, and even the Democratic Party in the United States are seeking clarity. That being said, every other week we hear about a peace deal that Donald Trump talks about, and then a day or two later it comes to naught. So what are your thoughts on this current peace deal, Professor?
Well, first of all, I'm not really sure we can even say it's a peace deal. I mean, as far as we can tell, it's just an agreement to continue discussions for another 60 days, during which time there will be no attacks, during which time the strait will be open, it seems, and during which time, and this is very important, of course, that Israel will refrain from attacking Lebanon, though it's not clear whether they're going to retreat from the territory which they've already illegally occupied. They say that they're not going to do that. So, there's a lot that we don't really know, but one thing seems very clear, and this is not even presented as a final deal. I mean, Donald Trump is doing his utmost to spin it as a major victory, and of course, the sycophants and in his motley crew are running around trying to present this as this great strategic victory and something which no other president could ever have accomplished and has ever accomplished in the history of the country. But that's clearly not the case. I mean, it seems like a very temporary arrangement to continue the negotiations towards a final deal. But however you spin it, the mere fact that we're talking in these terms shows that this is a major win for Iran and a major loss for the United States. They set out to achieve certain objectives. None of this, and I don't want. We must be careful not to normalize any of this. This was a completely illegal war of aggression. There's absolutely no legal basis for the attacks whatsoever, the attacks on Iran whatsoever. But that having been said, that put aside, the United States had several objectives which seemed to change by the day when it was clear that they weren't going to accomplish them. But basically, they don't seem to have accomplished anything. And the mere fact that Iran has survived, that it's managed to thrive, and I don't know if I could use the word thrive, but it has survived. The structure of the government, the economy, everything has survived, and everything seems all right. To that extent, the fact that they have managed to do that already shows that they pretty much won. And despite the tactical and military victories which the United States has had, and the suffering which it's managed to impose on the Iranian people and the government, Iran's won. I mean, that's where we come down to. But we're still not out of the woods. We're not out of the woods yet by any means. I mean, there's still plenty of time for Israel to sabotage this. There's if we're talking a 60-day window with which to negotiate some of the more fundamental issues, again, in particular the Israelis and also their proxies in the Zionist lobby in the United States, they're going to do their best to trash this. So we're not out of the woods yet, I think we have to keep that in mind.
So we keep hearing about these, peace deals from the time that genocidal Israel attacked Iran with the support of the United States. Every few days we've heard about a peace deal, and despite a reprieve, supposed reprieve during these peace deals, the carnage still continues or continued on the Iranian people and Lebanon, not forgetting what was happening in what was and still continues to happen in Gaza. Of course, in Jerusalem as well, regarding the Al-Aqsa compound, that's an ongoing issue as well. So all of this is playing out despite the peace deals that Donald Trump talks about. One of the main issues, according to the Americans, is the enrichment nuclear program of Iran has to stop, and has to stop right now, that they will promise it won't continue. And of course, opening up the Strait of Hormuz. US Vice President J.D. Vance has pointed out to falling oil prices. It's not only hurting them, it's hurting the entire global community. And, he announces that with the peace deal, it's going to be a new era for the Middle East. What do you suppose that new era means? And very especially the Arab neighbors of Palestine and Iran.
Well, people like Donald Trump and, again, J.D. Vance and all these other sycophants that he surrounds himself with, they bandy around these terms of a new era and unprecedented and these kind of generic superlatives, at the drop of a hat. So, I don't really take them too seriously. I think that they, certainly Trump and his motley crew, they seem to have had this kind of notion that somehow they were going to shove this historic peace deal, quote unquote, basically amounting to subjugation, that they were going to shove it down the throat of the Iranians, and that would bring a new, not Pax Americana, but a new period of domination by the United States and Israel, and that they would, so because that's the program from now on, all the countries which haven't signed the Abraham Accords and haven't normalized relations with Israel, well, they should do this. It should be mandatory for them to do this at this juncture. I remember Trump saying that kind of thing, and this was just so ridiculous. It's unbelievable. I was listening to some commentators saying that Trump was saying those kind of things, trying to placate the Israelis and trying to make sure that they didn't sabotage the negotiations with Iran. But look, Trump doesn't have that kind of strategic thinking. I just think, somebody whispered it into his ear and he said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'm sure everybody's going to do it. I'm sure all the, the Qataris and all the other countries which haven't signed the Abraham Accords, they're going to normalize relations with Israel if I tell them to. So, I think they have this kind of, notion of what the Middle East should look like. And of course, this also takes us to the quote unquote peace plan that Trump has had for Gaza, and which nothing is really happening on, by the way. Like you mentioned just now, the carnage is continuing in Gaza, not to mention the West Bank, which includes Jerusalem. The killing has never really stopped. Since 28th February, since the illegal attacks on Iran started, at least 1,000 Gazans have been killed, massacred by the Israelis. So, the killing has never really stopped. But that, despite that, they have this whole plan of colonization and exploitation of Gaza by Trump and his family and his oligarch buddies in the United States, and ruled by this quote so-called board of peace. So that's the kind of idea I think that they have for the Middle East and basically for the rest of the world. American domination, American and Israeli domination wherever we look. That's the idea, but that is not what's going to happen. This has been a strategic catastrophe for the United States, this illegal war on Iran. That's very, very clear. And it's also been a strategic catastrophe for the Israelis, because even the American public and members of the American public who had stuck by the Israeli cause during the live streamed genocide from October 2023, many of them are now realizing, hey, what's going on here? The United States is basically acting like a vassal state of Israel. Israel wants to attack Iran and completely destroy it and fight to the last American. That's the Israeli plan here. And Americans aren't dumb; they see this, and the polls show how Americans are really rethinking or demanding a very fundamental rethink of this blind support for Israel by the American government. What's really infuriating and really outrageous is that even during this period, or perhaps because the Zionist lobby sees the writing on the wall, what's happening within the corridors of power in Washington, D.C., they're actually negotiating even closer integration, not even cooperation, integration of the Israeli military industry into the American military industry, to the extent that it will be almost impossible to decouple these two. And so it just goes to show how completely distant from what the people want and from what the people are demanding these political elite people are in Washington, D.C. But that's not going to last. I mean, that's not going to last forever. And for sure, the time has come. Many people have spoken about this being the war on Iran, the Suez moment for the United States. And I think that's a very apt description.
I'm wondering, as you were sharing all of this with us, which makes so much of sense, and you kind of wonder, are these governments so blinded? Are they so power crazy that they continue in their pursuit of this whole colonial dream of theirs in the Middle East? With the next upcoming elections, let's assume that the Democrats come back into power in the United States. How do you believe that things will change as far as their foreign policy is concerned, and very particularly with the Middle East, the Palestinian situation, and their ongoing support for Israel? And the all-important question as well is, what's in it for the Americans for Israel to totally occupy and colonize Palestine?
Well, I mean, for the Israelis, it's certainly first and foremost about Palestine and about continuously expanding borders of Greater Israel. For the United States, most Americans couldn't point to Palestine on a map. Most, quite a significant proportion of Americans, so we understand, couldn't even point to their own country on the map of the world. So obviously, they have no idea where a lot of these other countries are. But for them, it's more about using Israel as a proxy. It's more about making sure that Israel does the bidding of the Americans and the broader Western colonial powers in the Middle East, and acts as their enforcer in the Middle East. I believe that's it's always been mainly about that. But really, the writing is very much on the wall, and there is really, I believe, a tidal wave of revulsion with Israel amongst the public in the United States, and certainly in most countries in Western Europe. And as much as they might kick and scream and try to hide from this tidal wave, it's just not going to be possible. There's no way that the governments in these countries are going to be able to going to maintain this kind of blind, really outrageous support for Israel under these circumstances. Whether these fundamental changes are going to happen, whether it'll happen after this coming November, That I kind of doubt, but America has this propensity for changing very dramatically in a very short period of time. So it could happen. But whether it'll be this year, or whether it'll be 2 years from now, or whether it'll be 5 years from now, definitely it will happen. And I'm very, very, I very strongly believe that all the trends are pointing in that direction. So definitely it will happen. But it's these kind of times where everything is, in a way, it's very dangerous, because you have the empires and the people in power, and they are on the decline, and everything is falling apart from them. And that's where they start lashing out left and right and getting really violent. And that's what we've been seeing with Israel, certainly since October 2023. And that's what we're seeing with the United States under Trump. But we are really in the time of monsters right now, but the time of monsters won't last forever. And it's very important that we try to pull everything into a better direction, as opposed to into another global huge war.
Let me just go back to my previous question, which I'd like you to answer in more detail, if you don't mind. The issue around, let's assume the Democrats come into power. How significantly will the Middle East situation and their foreign policy as a whole change, very especially for the people of Palestine, and of course what's happening currently in Lebanon? And of course Iran as well.
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, the Democratic Party in the United States is just as dedicated to the Zionist cause as the Republicans are, only in sort of different ways, and for presumably for different types of reasons, at least on the surface. And the Democrats are doing their utmost. I mean, I'm talking about the central party apparatus. They've been doing their utmost to try to clamp down and prevent truly pro-Palestinian candidates from even standing within the party. But the thing is, this is causing them to rapidly lose support. I mean, one of the big reasons that Harris lost the election in 2024 was her ridiculous stance on Gaza, where she supported Biden and said he had never done anything wrong, and she said she would not do anything differently. People were not impressed by this. People were not impressed when Bill Clinton went to Muslim majority towns in Michigan and wagged his finger at them and said, it's all Hamas's fault. People are simply not impressed by this kind of thing. And that's been this huge distance between the people in power in the Democratic Party and the actual rank and file of the voters is getting more, just more and more vast by the day. But that having been said, there are, very serious, truly candidates who really know their stuff about Palestine, and they have been rising up and winning seats in various locales in the United States. So it is going to go. But in terms of these midterm elections, assuming that there are fair and open elections, and that's a big if, but assuming, even assuming that the Democrats sweep the elections this time, I very much doubt that that's going to lead to a big fundamental turnaround immediately. But like I said, the trends are there. There's no question. There's no question that this tidal wave of sheer revulsion within certainly within the Democrats and also within many sectors of the Republican supporters, it's really going to change the game. It's going to make things very, very different for different sort of perspectives and different reasons. But it is going to change. I think the commonality here is we want a fundamental rethink of this blind support for Israel. We want a fundamental rethink of this being a vassal state of Israel, going to war for another country, spending immense amounts of blood and treasure, wasting blood and treasure for the sake of another country, when the infrastructure, welfare in the United States, and these are just falling apart, and they have been for decades. And people are finally seeing that. I mean, this was somewhat predictable, but certainly the war in Iran has definitely pushed that forward, and it's exacerbated that within the United States. So it's a matter of time. Whether it'll happen this October, or November, excuse me, I don't know. But it's definitely a matter of time. It definitely will happen, inshallah.
Saka, you are an international human rights and humanitarian lawyer. Always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you indeed. God bless.
Thank you. Thanks.
It is exactly 9:33. We're moving along, so do stay with us. We are here till 10 o'clock this morning. So continue becoming a part of the conversation.
Soweto, it's time to stand together for justice, peace, and solidarity. Join us for the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, taking place on Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 a.m. The walk will begin at the historic Regina Mundi Church and proceed to the monumentous Dlamini Mosque, bringing together people of all faiths, backgrounds, and communities in a powerful show of unity and support. Bring your family, friends, and fellow residents as we walk together for a common cause. Let your voice be heard and your presence counted. That's the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 in the morning, starting at Regina Mundi Church and ending at Dlamini Mosque. Together we walk, together we stand, together we show solidarity.